Hi everyone, welcome to Introduction to Web Development Part 1. So this is brought to you by Building Blocks 2020, a for computing students by computing students event. Part 1, what you guys will be learning will be basically how to make use of HTML, CSS as well as Flask to kind of build your own website or web application. And then in Part 2, you guys will learn how to use databases such as SQL to kind of link them together to form one whole web app. Yeah, so later we'll be using this application called repo.it. It's basically an online editor for you to write your code inside. So please go up when you're in your repo, please share your links under the events and workshop repo user links. There's this Discord channel there, so that we can share your links there so that we can come and take a look at those links and see how you're going along. And if you have any
Okay, so as Kenneth said just you're gonna use a repo. So on the link here, it's actually a link that will link you to a repo, and you can just sign up for an account and then create your own repo. So I'm gonna walk you through how to create it just in case you are a bit confused. Okay, so when you are signed in, right, this is what you will see. So you will create your own repo at the top right hand corner, which says new repo with an addition sign. And then for the language, since the first part we are doing is HTML and CSS, we'll just be using this option, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And for the name of your repo, you can just pick whatever you want. So let's say, for example, I want to name it workshop. And then I will just click repo. Then it should generate a page like this with some starter code. And in order to share your repo, you just click on HTML is short form for hypertext markup language, which is what describes the content of your website and is the reason why your web page is your web page. So this is what probably the most basic type of HTML code will look like. And don't worry about this for now. I will dissect this slowly in the next few slides. So first we have these three lines of code. The first one is !doc_type HTML. What this is a document type declaration, and all HTML documents should have this because it tells the web browser that what they're looking at is an HTML file, and thus they should render it accordingly like a website. It used to be more important in the past because this was like the determining factor for how your web browser will look at it. But in the more recent years, if you just started with the HTML text, your website will still load properly. Okay, so these HTML tags are the start and the end tag. So if you realize for HTML, we have a / in front. This is to say that your tag is ending, and all your contents for your HTML file will be inside here. So it's very important to note now that most HTML code actually comes with a start tag and an end tag. However, there are some exceptions to this, which I will introduce you guys in the subsequent slides. Okay, so between your HTML, you have your head and your body. So your head and your body, if you realize, is actually very similar to your human body, right? Your head and your body. So actually HTML is very human relation based as well. So if you realize, between head and HTML, they're actually not aligned on the same line. They're separated by 2 spaces. So what that means is that there's actually a relationship between HTML and the head tag. So the head tag is actually a child of HTML since it falls under that tag. And for body, since you realize they're along the same line of alignment, they are called siblings. So what the head tag is that it contains metadata that's not displayed in the website. For example, your website descriptions and some keywords which make it easier for search engines like Google to display your website. There's also other information such as a character set and your title. For the body text, this is actually where the bulk of your website content will be since it is what is displayed on the browser. Okay, So under the head tag, the most common and the first tag that you probably should put is your title. So the title tag is actually what you see on your tabs here. So for example, if you went to the Building Blocks website, you would see that the title of the tab is called Building Blocks. And this is what the title tag is for. So it's for easy identification when you look at your tabs at the top of your screen. And under the body here, we have a paragraph tag which says hello there. So in your HTML, this is what you will be seeing at the top of your website, which is just hello there for now. Okay, so that covered the most basic structure for HTML. Now can we get you guys to click on this link and download the image here? We'll be using it for CSS later and also the HTML portion. So you click on it, right? It should bring you to this page and you can just download it here. And then once you download it, can you guys rename this to pg.jpg? So let's say if I show in folder, I would rename this to PG. Yeah, okay, I'll just move this to my desktop for now. Okay. Now, moving back actually to the REPL site. This is the basics, like startup pages that REPL will give you. And we're gonna thoroughly explain how you can change this to become this site. So by the end of the day, you should have something similar to this for the HTML and CSS section. So you will have your main page here, and then you will have see my tasks, which will link you to some things that you have to do and the description of them. And if you move back, you also have an option of adding your tasks. So you have a form here and then you can submit. Okay, so first, right, since as I mentioned just now, this is actually a starter template that REPL gives you. So there's some content which you don't need. For example, the script.js. So you can just delete that by clicking on the 3 dots here and then just delete. And then you just click yes. Okay. Then for the HTML, there's actually some parts of it that we don't need. So for example, the script tag here, you just delete that. Okay. So now you may realize, right? Oh, but Anika, you didn't introduce what this was just now, and you didn't introduce this as well. Okay. So what this is telling the browser what character set to use. So UTF-8 is actually the most common character set because it's quite versatile. It has a lot of like symbols, so it supports emojis, Chinese characters, and stuff like that. And then for meta name viewport content, this is not really relevant to our workshop today, so you can just delete it. But I'll just roughly explain. So what this is for when, let's say you resized your browser. So let me give, okay, let's say I'll take this as an example, right? When you resize it, you'll realize that the contents move according to your browser. So this is essentially what it does. It helps you structure your HTML later better when it's on like smaller display such as your phone. Okay. Then this one is to link to the CSS, which is for like the aesthetics, and that's what Zizao will explain later. So first thing, if you go back to what this page looks like, right, you'll realize that okay, we have our title here, which is my momentum, and then we have good morning John, what would you like to do, and two links here. So right now it's quite obvious to see that good morning John and what would you like to do today is two different font sizes. So we will explain how to do that in the HTML here. So I'll just share this link to you guys before I start coding so that you have a better, so y'all can like look at the actual code as I type. if that's easier for you, besides looking at the stream. Yeah. Okay. So as I said, right, first we have our title, which is my momentum. So you will be changing this to say the same thing. And then your body tag will be good morning John. Good morning John. And since it is bigger, right, you would actually be using what we call a head tag, which is so now you realize that the head tag has a 1 behind it. So HTML actually has different types of head tags. So we have all the way to H1 to H6. So okay, wait. If I type the content first, and I can show you the difference between the two font sizes. So we just 6, 6. And then I will go over to, I will run it. Okay, so you can see that very obviously there's a difference. And if you went to like copy and paste this line of code and just change the number to like 2, 3, 4, 5, you realize that it will actually get smaller and smaller. Okay, so now we have the other part, which is what would you like to do today? So this actually is another tag, which is called the paragraph tag. So it's pretty common, I would say, because you know, like all your websites and stuff have like words in there. So most of the time they're actually in paragraph text. Okay. Then we also have the two links, right? If you recall, the see my task and add task. So if you notice, when you click on it, it will actually redirect you to another place. So in this case, it's like task.html. And basically, it's another page instead of your main page that you're working with, right? So how we do that is through a link. So I will just type out what the code for a link should look like first. And then I will explain to you. So A stands for like anchor, and then href is your reference. So in this case, since I would be linking internally, right, it would be linking to another HTML file that I'll be creating later. So I would just type the name of the HTML file. So in this case, I will do the see my task link first, and that will be task.html. And then in between here, you would be typing the content. So in this case, it's see my task. And you would do the same for add task, right? So you would copy the same line of code, paste it, and then you would change the href to form the HTML instead of task. And then see my task to add task. Yeah. So if I went to reload the page, I run it again. So you can see that see my task and add task, right? Okay. Do y'all have any? Are y'all confused? Do you need me to stop for like a few seconds so that you can process what is happening? Okay. So I shall move on. So this is our main page, right? Now we have to implement the HTML file for see my task and add task. So you will go to the sidebar here, and you can see here there's an add file. So you will click on it, and then we'll type task.html. Okay, so if you realize this is an empty HTML file, right? And what I said earlier is that HTML starts off with the same structure essentially, right? It's the same structure as this like starter tag. You still have your doc tag, you still have your HTML tag, you still have your head tag, your title tag, your body tag. So if you don't want to tag everything out, you can just go back to index, copy the whole thing, and then you just paste it over and make the necessary changes, right? So in this case, what changes would you make? Well, if you want to see my task, you realize that your title, okay, I cannot zoom in on this. Okay, you realize that your title is see my task, and then the content's also different. So first thing is from my momentum, you would change it to my task. And then the contents in the body, you could just delete it, right? Essentially. So you're like set to make this other new HTML template. And what we see here is that this is a table format, correct? So how HTML looks at tables is they will look at it, first of all, as a whole table. So this is one tag, the whole table by itself. And then it will look at rows. So this is one row, this is another row, this is another row, and this is another row. And then because it's a table, we have like our headers, right? This would be under a head, like a table head tag. And then this will be under a table data tag. So I shall type it here. Hopefully you guys can understand. I'll do it more slowly because it might get confusing to begin with. So first we have our table tag, right? Since I said everything will fall under your table tag. Okay. And then now we have our rows. So first row that we're gonna make is the one that says task and descriptions. So we'll have a TR tag, which stands for table row. And inside the table row tag, we'll be having our table heads. Right. So one table head is task. And then another table head, so you can just copy. You can just copy and like paste the code. So descriptions, right? Okay. Then we have our next row, which is the actual content. So you can just copy this and then paste it below that and then just change the text. So for example, instead of it being a table head now, it'll be a cell, right? So in HTML, it's called a table data. So you will change the th text to td. And then you will change the contents of it. So let's say I want to go shopping and buy eggs. Then you will just change that accordingly. Okay, then what if I wanted to add more content? I just wanted to keep adding rows and rows and rows and rows. So if you realize by now, there's a lot of copy and pasting because the structure is the same, right? Essentially, whenever you want to add information, all that changes is go shopping and buy eggs. So you can just copy the same thing. You would paste it and then you will just change the content. So like, let's say, do homework and your description is, like, let's say, and it should give you the same. Like it will just add another row. So I can show this here. Yep. So this is what you see. And then now you realize, wait, but when I click on it, I can't go back, right? There's no way for me to go back. So how you will do that is after the table, after the end of the table tag, you would again be having a anchor tag, right? The link tag. So it's the same way as what you did just now, but instead of going to another HTML, like such as like task or form, you'll be going back to the main page, which is called index.html, right? And then the content that the like link should wrap around will be, let's say, to go back. Okay, so now you might maybe be questioning, why would repos, like does repo name their files randomly? Or is it like a convention? Well, most web developers actually start their main page, call their main page as index.html, and it's like a convention that people have decided on, which is quite important for you to follow, because when you go further into like web development, some things that you do might be coded in such a way that they rely on the fact that your first main page is called index.html. Yeah. So this is one way for you to display content, right? A table format. So what if you didn't want to display in a table format? There's other ways that you can display it, such as like your bullet forms and your numbered lists. So I can explain to you how to code that. But first, you would have to remove the table contents, right? But since this is what we're gonna use later, as you can see here, I will make you guys comment it out. So how a comment will work is that we have our normal angular brackets, an exclamation mark, and 2 dashes. And then if we want to stop commenting, let's say the end of our table tag here, we would have 2 dashes and a close angle bracket. So you can see the color difference, right? This is like blue, purple, and I'm not sure what color this is, but yes. And then the one on top is more of a gray color. So if I were to reload this, right, all you would see is actually the back link here. Okay, so how would I go about coding, let's say, a bullet list? So very similar to how HTML looks at a table, all the contents will actually be under the tag that supports bullet list, in which case a bullet list is called an unordered list in HTML. So you would have a UL tag with UL standing for unordered list, and then you would be having all the contents, right, which will be wrapped under a list tag. So let's say I want to have the same content, so I would like go shopping. Yes. Then okay, so if I run this, yes, and see task, yes. So this is a bullet form. Okay, now what if you want to change it into not a bullet form, right? Not a bullet form will be, let's say, your number, so like 1, 2, 3, and that will be an ordered list. So you would really just be changing the U in the UL to OL, and it will give you the same thing. Why? Because it's again the way HTML is structured. So it will be under an ordered list tag, and then all the contents like go shopping to homework will be a list. So if I went to run this again, yeah, so you realize that it's numbered instead. Okay, so you can just go ahead and delete the lines here first, so that you guys will have easier time with the CSS data. So you can just remove the comments the same way you added them, just delete the lines. should give you the same thing. Okay, so now we move on to our add task, right? So let's say I go back so I can show you guys what this looks like. Oh no. Okay, let's try it. Okay, it's a bit broken. Probably, I'm not sure why, but okay, if you remember, it was just a block with a task and a description input. So you will again be adding a file and call it form.html. And then again, because it's blank, you can just copy and paste the code, right? So you can, let's say, copy all my code from index.html. And then I'll just paste it inside here and I'll just change the relevant content. So the first thing would be to change the header because it's now called, or change the title because it's called my task. And then the content here would be now a form, right? So similar to like the way the table is structured, a form will also be under a form tag. And then, okay, just from your like memory of what a form looks like, you will have the question, and then you will have a place for you to put your answer, right? So the question will be a label tag. So in this case, we have task. And then the place that you type in your answer is called an input tag. So input tag has different types of input, right? So if you just like remember forms that you make in general or forms people ask you to fill in, you can either like type stuff inside, you can click buttons, so you pick like one option or multiple options. So all these are different types of input. So for our case, right, the type will be text. Yes. So next time if you're doing like other HTML forms, the type would change. And if you realize for every other HTML tag that we've been doing, right, you only write the, like, let's say the name of the tag. So like form, you just write form, body, you just write body. So, but then for input, you have a type. So the type is called an attribute to the input. Yeah. Then another thing that you might realize is that we don't have a closing tag for the input. So this is one example where you don't need a closing tag. Yeah. Then, okay. So now we also need an input for our description, right? So we'll just be copying the same code. Then you'll be pasting it, but your label would change to description. Okay. And similar to the problem in See My Task, you need a way to go back. So you will again be having your anchor tag here. So you would still be linking back to index.html. Okay. So if I were to run this and I add task, this is what you'll see. Then when I go back, so here you can just type anything just to like show you. And then you go back, yeah, here. So you realize everything's quite plain, right? Where's all the color that you see here? And like all about the image at the back. So you can actually add images in HTML, and there are two ways to do it. So one is like internally, so you would have your file inside here and then you would make reference to it. And another one is through link, like referencing external URL. So the first, I'll show you the two methods, but the first method I will show you is the internal one. So you would, okay, I'll do this on index.html. And the first thing you'll do is you'll go to your sidebar and you'll see there's these 3 dots in the vertical line here to upload your file. So you would go and upload the background that we got you guys to download just now. So you can see that it will show up with all your other files here. And if you click on it, you can actually see the background. Yeah. So one way is to do an internal referencing, right? So for the image tag, HTML goes by img, which is short form for image. And then you will need to tell HTML where your source is, right? So where can I find this image? So src is short form for source. And because it is a internal reference, you will just need to type the name of your file. So in this case, it's just pg.jpg. And you could just close your tag here, which is another example of HTML tag that doesn't need an end tag. So these are like the self-closing tags. And then the source will be an attribute as well. So if I run this, you can see that, okay, yeah. You can see that the image is here. And for the image tag, there's actually more attributes that come with it. So for example, I can have a alt attribute, which is alt. And then what the alt attribute is for is basically, have you ever went to like a website which has images, right? But you can't see the images. And it's like the broken image icon. So what the alt attribute does is when a situation like this happens, the user can actually hover over where the image is supposed to be, and it will tell you like a short description of it. So let's say, for example, my alt is my alternate text is like, let's say this is a background or something, right? So I'll just say background. And then I'm not sure if it will show here because it's not broken, but we shall. Okay, it won't. So yeah, like there are many attributes that you can set here. You can also set like the width and the height of it. So this is one way, right? The local referencing. So another way you can do it is through the URL. So let's say, for example, I wanted to go on Google and I went to image search background wallpaper. And let's say I found this one and I think it looks nice. So I will just copy the URL where this image comes from. So I will right click, open image in a new tab, and then you will just copy the link at the top. Let's say I went to copy this, and I'll go back to my code, and I'll change pg.jpg to become the URL of the page. Then if I run it, patient. Yes. So if I run it, you realize that you can see the same image. Yeah. So now you must be wondering, right? But I thought your like image is a background. It's supposed to be under the word. Why is the image for here below it? Well, for HTML, this is actually not possible to do, and that's work for the CSS side of it, which is what I'll be passing on now to Zhao. Yeah, so you can just go ahead and delete your image tag here first so that you don't get confused later. about what's happening. Yeah.
Maybe any questions at this point for
about anything.
Anika? Yeah.
Meta is short form for metadata. So like for this case, right, we did or for this case we use meta charset, which is just to tell the web browser what type of character set to use, because the web browser actually has like a couple. So for example, one more commonly known is like ASCII. So probably your like the old school art that you do by typing stuff out on your computer, right? Then UTF-8 is for your emojis and your like symbols, so like your copyrights and like your Chinese characters and stuff like that. Then it's called meta because you don't actually see it on the web browser. So like for example, if you see here, right, you don't like there's no way you can possibly tell that the character set is UTF-8. Or let's say if I went to add different type of meta text, because say instead of charset UTF-8, I went to change my attribute to like description, which is more for use in like your search engines, right? It's not information that you can see in your like web browser.
Okay, so now we'll be beginning with the CSS portion of the workshop. And you probably heard from Anika just now that CSS is the language, or rather the markup language that is used to style the formatting on web pages. So the first thing you need to know for CSS is concept of classes and IDs. Wait, but what do I mean by classes and IDs? Okay, when you think of a class, right, you think of a group of people or a group of students. So it can contain many things like students and elements, because like a class can have 20, 30 or even 40 students. And students can take more than one subject in a class. I mean, I know this doesn't really apply for like secondary 1 or 2, but in JCs or polys, students probably have to take more than one subject and will be split apart into different classes depending on the subject that they're taking. So this applies to CSS because the elements, like HTML elements, can be split into multiple, can belong to multiple classes depending on the properties you want to assign them. Okay, so what are IDs? ID, as the name suggests, means identification. So it's something like it must be unique, and every person, or in this case, every HTML element only has one. So here are some of the common ways, or the common CSS syntax to define your classes and IDs and their respective properties. As you can see over here, the way to define classes is with a dot followed by the name of your class, and you put all your properties inside a pair of curly brackets. And the way you define the properties is the property name, which is in this case height, followed by a colon, then the property value, which is in this case 20 pixels. One thing you must note is that all CSS properties must end with a semicolon to denote that, yeah, that's the end of this property and I'm going to define the next one. And for IDs, the way you define an ID is with the hashtag symbol and then the ID name. And similarly to class, curly brackets and colon and semicolon are all there. And one more thing to note is that you actually can do away with classes and IDs if you want to just directly assign properties to a HTML element like body, or HTML element like body. So yeah, and The one more thing to know about classes and IDs is that the naming convention of them is with a dash. If you have let's say if your class or ID has multiple words inside, you just combine them with a dash. Okay, now I'll be going on to talk about 3 different types of CSS. This is probably very fast, so don't worry about it. We'll go into the coding soon. The first type is external, second type is internal, and the third type is inline. So what do all these mean? Okay, for external CSS, it is the most common type of CSS, and because it's often used for multiple HTML pages and it contains all of the user-defined properties. So what I mean by this is that all the stuff you see here, like in this case body, will be inside the external CSS. Yeah. And there are actually predefined standards or predefined classes. Other people have actually created a whole set of classes for you to use, and it can be more convenient to use them, but you lose out on the flexibility. And some common ones are Bootstrap, Booma, and Tailwind. And for today, we'll be using the Bootstrap CSS style formatting. Yeah. The next type of CSS is internal CSS. So as you can see over here, it's embedded directly inside the HTML page. It's within the header text. This is rarely done in real life, and today we won't be going to this, but the formatting of it is largely the same as external CSS. And lastly, for inline CSS, as you can see, the properties of the element is defined within the element itself. So in this case, P for paragraph, and you just set style equals to whatever you want. Okay, so now we'll be going into the live coding demo. Okay, so the first thing you want to do, right, as I said earlier, we'll be using this thing called Bootstrap, which is a third-party CSS that has been defined for us. So how do we do this? Well, as you can see over here, there's this HTML tag that's been pre-made for us, and I'll be breaking this down slowly. So the first thing we do is link, which is the tag needed to link to it, and we set rel. And what is rel? Rel is actually it stands for relationship, and it basically means how the external href will interact with the HTML page. So in this case, we set rel equals to style sheet, and the last one is href equals to I'll copy and paste this over here later. So if I go and search for Bootstrap CSS, so here's the link for the Bootstrap CSS. I'm sure you all have. Okay, here's the link for the Bootstrap CSS. I'm going to paste it here. So it's quite long, but some quick Googling and you will probably find it. Yeah, so we'll go and paste the Bootstrap CSS here. And so now, and Nicola has also shared it in the workshop chat with you all. Okay, so how do we get from this for a new tab? How do we get from this to this? The first thing you might want to realize is that, as Nicola mentioned just now, the image background is missing. So how do we fix that? Is we can go to style and we can define the body tag as I showed earlier in the slides just now, the body tag. And we can go here and set background image to URL of, in this case, bg.jpg. So if we rerun this now, yeah, you can see the image is fully loaded and it covers the entire screen. There are some additional CSS properties that we can add, such as background, repeat to cover, which means that it will cover the entire page, no matter the screen size. And sorry, it's background repeat, no repeat, and then height 100%. Yeah. So that's it for the body tag. And now, what else is missing from our web page? As you can see, the good morning, John, or the header text and the paragraph text, they're all stuck in the top left-hand corner. So how do we push them down? Well, we can do this thing by what's called creating a div. A div stands for division, and it's basically used as a container to contain all your HTML elements within it. So set a div and put all the elements within it. Okay, so what do we do with this div? How do we push it down? We can do this by setting it a class to. You can create our own class called middle, which means that it'll be in the middle of the web page, and not stuck to the top. And we can define the class middle by putting a period followed by typing the word out and set its margin top to 36 view height. Okay, what does margin top 36 view height mean? Okay, margin top is just one of the properties of CSS, and 36 view height is 36 of a unit. I'll be going to that later, but for now, let's just run it, and you can see that, yeah, the text is down now. The text is not stuck in the top left-hand corner. Oh, but how do we move it to the center of the page? Like I want it to be here. We can do that by adding another class to the div tag. In this case, actually Bootstrap has already defined some classes for us, and one of this is text center, which basically centers all the text inside the division. So if I rerun this now, yeah, the text is in the center of the page now. Okay, so now as you can see, the words are still black, right? So changing that is actually quite simple, and if you've been following for the previous few steps, we can actually do so by adding h1 and paragraph and set its color to white. So what this does is you set all the text with the tags of h1 and paragraph to white. Okay, so this is looking more and more like the website that we have here. But one more thing is missing from here. Do you notice how the buttons are very ugly compared to here? These buttons are actually defined or predefined also from the Bootstrap external link that you pasted just now over here. See this Bootstrap link? So we can actually change the formatting of these things by setting its class to button and button primary. And similarly, do the same for the other button, the other href tag. So you can see that the two buttons have been made nicer. Okay, now moving on to the other web pages. Tasks and add task are all still very ugly, right? There's no styling going on here. So how do we solve that? Well, to do that, I'll be showing what I mean. I'll be first showing what I mean by pixels or view width or view height. Remember just now how I did margin top equals to 36 view height. What this means is in this little diagram here. So view height basically means the height of the entire viewport or the screen, and view width is the width of the screen. And for most smartphones, in this case, the iPhone 6, 7, and 8 has a width of 375 pixels, which defines the size of 1 pixel. Okay, so similarly, remember just now how we had class, middle, and text center. We can basically copy over this div tag over into, say, tasks.html and copy over and put the table tag within it. Actually, also put all the elements inside within this div tag. Oops. Yeah. So now if I rerun it, task.html is now down below here and it's not stuck on the top left-hand corner where it was previously. Oh wait, but you see something's wrong. You can see that even though we assign it to text center, the table is still stuck to the left and it's not in the middle where it's supposed to be. This is because tables aren't of display type block, and they are of another display type. Okay, what do I mean by display type? This would be a good time to bring in what is display type? This would be a good time to bring in display, because there are many different types of display types. There's block, which means rectangle, and it has properties of a rectangle, or like borders and padding and width. And the next is inline, which is typically used for text, like for example the A tag or the P tag. Sorry, not P, just A text you used just now as links between the web pages. So for display type of block, it has 3 properties I want you to take note: margin, border, and padding. You can actually go and find out what these mean by clicking the link over here if you have the link to the slides. Basically, it's tinyurl.com/bbcs20block. And I will show you a quick demo of what margin, border, and padding mean. So as you can see over here, we have a div. Let me reload the page first. We have a div with margin 20 pixels, padding of 20 pixels, and border of 20 pixels, with a border radius of 20 pixels also. So as you can see, if I increase the margin, the light blue area around it gets bigger. So what margin does is it prevents other objects from getting too near to this object. And similarly, border is the dark blue area surrounding the rectangle. So I can increase or decrease the border width, and I can also change the border radius using their respective CSS properties. And finally, the padding. Padding is defined by the distance between the border and the stuff that's within the element. So in this case, it's just a bunch of text called stuff. And as you can see, when I increase and decrease the padding, the distance between the border and the text gets bigger and smaller. Yeah, you can go play this demo, and there are a few more properties here that I won't be going into, but you can Google them and check what they do if you like. Alright. So you may ask, how do we change Now, how do we move the table, which is over here, to the center? We can do that by going over to here and create an ID called my table. And for this table, we want to set its margin to 0 auto and set the ID of our table to my table by doing this. So we set the ID of the table to my table and define all elements with the ID my table to have a margin of 0 and auto. And if I rerun this, the table's in the center now. Oh, but our table still looks like a bunch of text with no visibility because you can't read it. It's still black. So what we can do is we can set its background to white. Set its background to white, which makes it a bit more readable now. And tables in HTML also have a few more properties, such as, say, border, separate, and we can set to 0 pixels. And a few more properties are border spacing. Border spacing 0 pixels, border radius 30 pixels, and border collapse separate. So if I do it here, border collapse. Okay, so what do these two do? Border spacing basically means that the distance between any two borders in a table will be 0 pixels, so which means they'll be stuck together. But border collapse separate means that the borders will be more defined. Oh yeah, and one more thing I forgot. We need to set the border of all the different elements in this case, which is the table row, and table row, table head, and table data. We need to set them to have a border of 1 pixel, type solid and color black. And if we do this, we can see that our table actually looks like a table now. And for one last touch of aesthetic, we can set the border radius to be 20 pixels. And now if we run this again, oh yes, we also need to set the padding of each element, aka the table head, and table data, to that of 20 pixels, so that the text won't be so near the border, and it will look bigger and more readable. So we set its padding to 20 pixels and run it again. Yep, our table looks a bit more like a table and not just some bunch of text squashed at the top left-hand corner. And as you can see, the back button here is still, the back button over here is still a link and not a button. So we can change that by going over to task and set its class to button and button primary. Primary, as we did previously in index.html also. Another one. Sorry. Button primary. Oh yeah. One thing I forgot to do also was to import or link the other two web pages to this external Bootstrap CSS template. So if I do that now, the button becomes a bit more like a button and not some link or text hanging around at the side of the web page. Okay, lastly, we have this add task page. But as you can see, our input form right now is not very nice. It's just stuck at the top left-hand corner of the website. So how do we go and fix that? Well, similarly to the previous demonstrations, we can set its div to class middle. And from here, the form and the black button gets pushed down a bit. And similarly, okay, so when we create the form, right, we want to design it such that it's in the middle of the web page and not at the side. So similarly, we can do what we did with the table, and we can create an ID called my form and set its background to white and border to 1 pixel solid black. So now we can have the input. Okay, so with that done, and we recheck our form again. Alright, I keep forgetting to do this. Please remember to do this, guys, which is to assign the ID of the form to my form, because this is what we have defined ourselves. Yeah, so as you can see, our form has background white and it's more readable now. But hold on, why is it so stuck? Why is it such a long line? And how do I make it smaller? To do that, you can go back to the CSS and set its width to, say, 350 pixels. And if I reload that, it's slightly better now, but it's still not in the middle. Because what I haven't done yet is set its margin to 0 auto, which is what I did earlier with the table. So when I do that, you can see that the form is in the middle now and not hanging out at the side. Okay, but why is this so different from this? Like, everything here is improperly formatted, and whereas stuff here is actually looks okay. So what we can do to fix that is we can use this property called float. And we can do this by assigning we can use this property called float. And we can do this by creating a class called my input and set it to float to the right. What this does is it pushes all elements with the class of my input, which is, in this case, I'm going to define this to class my input. And next one, class my input. And we can define this to, we can set them to float right. So as you can see over here, the two text boxes or the two input boxes are pushed to the right of the form. But it's still quite ugly, isn't it? So what we can do now is we can set the height of the form to, say, I don't know, 350 pixels also. Oh no, that's too tall. Yeah, it takes a while to get it, but if you know your dimensions, it can be done. Okay, so but now it's still quite ugly, right? The text is still squashed at the side and it's near the borders. So we can add a padding of 20 pixels, and similarly to the table, we can add a border radius of 20 pixels also. And if we run this, it's going to look much better. It's more similar to what we had just now. But you still see one problem. The task and description, they aren't properly formatted like in the web page here. And we can fix that by actually making a break line, adding a break line between the two input boxes. So when we do that, yeah, you can see that it's properly formatted now. Oh yes. Also for any form, we need a submit button, and we can do that by setting input type equals to submit, because instead of text, you want to submit it. And we can set its class to button and button primary, because we want to use the predefined CSS properties that we have imported from Bootstrap. Yeah. And we can set its value to submit, which means that it has a value of submit, and it will display it as if it were a button. So if I go over here and I rerun this, you can see that there's a submit button over here, just like the one in the demo template. And we can move over the back button by creating another div within here and set it to class text center, as we have done in the other web pages. As you can see over here, text center. Div text center, and yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much how you create or how you format a web page with CSS. So as you can see, all of our elements here are properly formatted. And okay, that was a lot, right? So I'm going to give a quick sum up of what we have gone through today. Firstly, what we managed to do, we started off with adding a background image to our website, and then we set a margin on top to push all the elements down to the center of the website. We also learned about table formatting with border spacing and border collapse, and also about HTML forms and how you can change the look of it with background and border radius. Actually, all of these are pretty much similar to each other because they have common properties like margin, background, border radius, and padding. So yeah. And lastly, you can go and play this demo. It's actually quite interactive. You can adjust the values of these, and yeah, so that's it for CSS.
And now, I hope you enjoyed your short break, and welcome back. So before we jump into creating a web app on the internet, first we're gonna dive into some theory about the internet. So to start off, how exactly does the internet work? So I'm sure you've heard of HTTP before, which is basically Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So HTTP is basically what's driving the internet right now. It's what enables the whole World Wide Web to work. But how does it work exactly? So we can use the analogy of an envelope. So basically, in a normal envelope in the mail, it sends information from a sender to a recipient, right? So similarly, HTTP will send requests and responses to and from the client and the server. So you can see here in our envelope, we have some cookies, right? The term cookies may be quite familiar, and that's because a HTTP cookie is something like a small piece of data which is sent from a website and stored on the user's computer by the user's web browser while the user is browsing. So this basically enables the server to store user information, such as stuff like our search history and so on. Yes, so we can view that basically when you want to go to a website, right? Then you type in www.nowhere123.com/doc/index.html into your search bar. This is basically the request that gets sent via HTTP to the server. So we can view HTTP information like this. I'm going to show you an example using our Building Blocks website. So yes, this is our Building Blocks website. So you can right-click and then, okay, there's this button here called Inspect, so you want to click that. Yeah, then this sidebar will pop up, and then in the first tab, there's elements, right? So we can see our HTML here. If you want to view the CSS, there's this thing called sources. Then, yeah, there's your CSS code here. But what we want to focus on is the HTTP. So that'll be under your network tab. So, okay, let's just click something. Yes, okay, so you see, basically this is your HTTP information, like your request URL, request method, status code, and so on. So I'll be covering what some of these mean, but you don't need to know them like very well in order to write a web app. It's just a bit of background information. So you see currently for 2020 / the status code is 200 and it's green. Green is good, right? Okay, wait. But now we're in the HTTPS site. So what happens when we change it to HTTP? Okay, let's go find 2020 / now we get a 307 internal redirect and it's yellow. Yellow is not as good as green. So what does this mean? Okay, so basically you get the 307 internal redirect when you're on HTTP and not HTTPS. Why is this so? Okay, because the S in HTTPS stands for secure, which means it's cryptographically secure, and this means that they'll basically encrypt your traffic to and from the network in order to protect user data. So it's generally good practice to always put in code to redirect your users to HTTPS on your website. So basically more examples of status code is the 307 server redirect like we saw just now, and other status codes include 200 OK, 301 move permanently, 401 unauthorized, and 500 internal server error. So those ranging from 200 to 299, like 200 OK, are like successful responses, which is good. You want to aim for that. Yes, but those that aim from 300 to 399 are redirect responses. 400 to 499 are client errors. So like, your 404 error not found, yeah, that's a client error. Then 500 onwards is your server errors. So we'll be talking about HTTP methods, which we need to use for our web app on the internet, yes. So we'll be utilizing the get and post methods. So yeah, the get method is used to get information from the server, while the post method is used to send data to a server, like your user input, images, and so on. As for the rest of the methods that you see here, right, they're like for more, okay, they're quite advanced. So if you want to learn more about web development, you can go and Google these and then research more about them and find out how to incorporate them. But yeah, generally the two most important ones are the get and post methods. Yes. So now we're going to use Flask and Jinja to create our web application. So I'm sure we all know Python, right? So basically Flask and Jinja work via Python, and Flask is a web framework which includes many libraries to help us set up our web app. But then what's the use of Jinja? Okay, so Jinja is a templating language. So this helps us create even more dynamic web applications, which is very cool. Wow, okay. So I'll let Kenneth explain more about how exactly to use Flask and Jinja to create your web application.
Now, right, we'll be figuring out how on earth we're going to actually implement our Flask code with Python. So the first thing is that to know is that when it comes to implementing Flask code, there is this whole set of boilerplate code which you guys will need to know. It's kind of standard across in Flask, so this is something that we will need to always implement when we use a Flask web app. So the first thing you do is, as we mentioned earlier, because Flask has a wide access to a wide range of libraries, we'll be using from Flask import all. Of course, we can go and manually import all the modules that we'll be using, but for today's purposes and for simplicity's sake, we'll be using importing of all libraries. Okay, then the next thing we'll need to do is to kind of initialize the Flask app. So underscore name is a reserved kind of variable that is being used by Flask, and we assign it to the variable app. And then also we'll need to use a URL to kind of trigger the function. So what happens is that when it comes to using Flask, we have a bunch of routes that we might want to use. So for instance, such as if you go to the default homepage, then it will just be a default slash. But if you have other more additional pages, then it will redirect you here and there. So this is kind of what app root means. And once this app root is triggered in a sense by the decorator, what happens is we will run a function known as main. We can really call it anything, and the main is just a standard kind of default name, but we can really give it something else like index or maybe full bar or whatever. So you can give it any other name. And then we'll just return hello Flask, but there's definitely more sophisticated things that we can do, which I'll show you guys later. And lastly, to kind of start the whole thing, you will use a if name equals main. I'll talk more about that later. Okay, so to kind of get started, I'd like all of you guys to go back to your web browser, open a new tab and type repo.it. Yeah, and we'll open up a new repo.it kind of page. We'll be using, but don't close your static page first, just open up a new one. And we will go and open a new repo on the top right hand corner, click new repo, and then we'll look for a Flask page. So like a multi-page Flask. Okay, and then you can give it any name you want to call it. I mean, they have a default name for you, but I'll just call my, I don't know, intro to Flask. Okay, then I'll create a repo. Okay, then it will kind of set up. So I'll give you guys some time to kind of open up the page here. Okay, so once you have this page open up, you realize that there's this whole bunch of code that you see over here. There's all sort of random, the kind of the default page that is set up with lah. But we'll be coding it ourselves from scratch. So let's delete, Control A to select everything, and then we will delete everything. Okay, so then now we will kind of start with the Flask page. So from what we saw in the slide just now, we need to import from Flask. Make sure to use small letters, because that's the name of the library. And then we will initialize the Flask app. So initialize the Flask app. And we will use app is equal to Flask. Oops, sorry. Okay. You see app is equal to Flask name. And then after that we will use a app.root. So this is a Python decorator function. You can read more about it actually, because it's not used not just in Flask but actually in other applications as well. Methods. Actually wait, I don't need this yet. So first we will create for this default app root, and we will define a main function. So return render. Actually just return hello world. Okay, then if name is equal to main, then app.run. Okay, so now we have the default kind of setting ready, right? So let's go ahead and run it, and let's see what will happen when we run it. Okay, so it's installing some dependencies, some libraries. Jinja, you can see here, click, work, zip, which is I think some security library. Okay, now we have this thing ready. So let's click on this and let's open it up. Let's see what we can see here. Wait, refuse to connect? Then realize, wait, there's something wrong. Something seems to be wrong here. Maybe let me try running it on my local host instead, shall we? So what I'm going to do now is maybe you guys stop coding for a while, just watch my screen to kind of see what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to open up idle. I can really open up any the Python IDE, but I'll just use idle because it's great. Yes. Okay. Then I'll open it up, fix the indentation. I'll run it on my local host to see whether maybe it works on my local host instead. You know, sometimes things just don't work online. So I'll save as in my desktop, and I'll just call it Flask. Okay, .py. Yes, very good. Of course, I felt Flask wrongly, but never mind. Then I'll run F5, and you'll see that it appears over here. Okay, then now let me go ahead and open up an incognito window. See where it is. Do y'all see the hello world over here? So it seems to work on the local host, but why doesn't it work on the REPL.it instead? So as it turns out, REPL doesn't just allow you to run on any kind of local host, any local host you want. So REPL actually has a default kind of address as well as a port number that they want you to run your REPL web app on. And so this host is actually 0.0.0, and the port number is 8080. So if I were to run it again, let's try running it again. We'll stop it and we'll run it again. The button at the top there. It realizes, oh wait, it works this time. So this time the hello world works. So what's kind of like the moral of the story of this like whole thing? So whenever you run, when you are like doing web development, especially if you're not using localhost, because eventually you'll probably deploy it on some online website or something, you'll need to make sure which ports are kind of open, which hosts that you're supposed to use, because there are some conventions that that other cloud hosting providers have that you might not know of. For instance, I think Amazon Web Services, they don't use like app as the default. They use something like web app or something. Yeah, it's a different name lah. So you need to make sure to kind of know this convention before you embark, so you don't run into errors like what I did just now lah. Okay, so once I'm done with this, I'm going to be like, okay, so this is a nice web page, but what I really want to do is to kind of port over my web page that I did just now from Anika's and Zhechow's presentation. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to my static web page. So you guys should still have your static web page open. If you don't have, please open it. Oh no, mine's loading. But what I'm going to do now is I'm basically going to copy it over. And so to kind of give you guys an idea of how we're going to copy this over while this thing is reloading. Let me reload the web page. It's lagging. To give you guys kind of idea of how this whole thing is going to work, we're going to take a look at this Flask folder organization. So if you all can see over here, this is my Flask kind of web. Okay, so to kind of port over all my HTML and my CSS pages, you kind of need to follow this standard formatting. So the first thing is this is kind of your top level directory. This is your top level directory. It's called my web app. You can call it anything. It doesn't really matter. Then imagine this is like your folder lah. Okay. Then you will have your templates folder over here, which will store things such as your HTML pages. So like just now you have a form.html, you have index.html, or whatever .html. You place it inside your templates folder. You also have a static folder. So what do you put in your static folder? So as its name suggests, it's static. So static could be stuff like your CSS, your cascading style sheets for your styling of your website, or also stuff such as images to kind of store inside, which like your background images, you can place that inside your static folder. And lastly, your app.py, which is the main thing that was running the Flask just now, as you guys have saw, should be on the same directory level as your static and your template folders. So this is very important. Some of you might be wondering, can I call it something else? Like say, I don't call it templates, I don't call it HTML pages. Or static, I don't call it static, I call it CSS plus images, for instance. No, you cannot do that, because what happens is that when you're running your Flask app, it will kind of look out for the names of these folders. So it will look out specifically for the names of these folders. And if you are using something else like say Amazon Web Services, okay, I keep saying Amazon Web Services. Okay, yeah, but anyways, if let's say you use some other web services cloud providers, you need to kind of look out for what's the names of the folders that they're providing, because they are looking out for this specific name, so do not call it anything else. Yeah, even a missing S will cause your folder to stop working, so yeah. Okay, so back to our static page. So now it's reloaded. I'm gonna go ahead and select everything. Copy paste it over. So just now remember we have our templates folder, so I'll open my templates folder. Oh, they already created a very nice page, but I really don't want this, so I'm gonna delete it. So delete it, copy paste my momentum pages over here, as you guys can see. Yeah, and then I'm gonna go back to my static page and copy over all the other stuff. So I'll first copy over all my HTML pages. And then I'll go ahead and copy my CSS as well. So Ctrl A to select everything again. Ctrl C. And then I'll go over and create a new folder. So make sure to add a folder. I'll call it static, because that's the name that they look out for. And oh wait, this static is created inside a template. So always make sure that your static folder as well as your templates folder are separate, are on the same directory level. So they should not be inside each other or anything. They should be on the same directory level. So I'll go ahead and readjust it. Then I'll create a new thing called style.css. I can really call it anything lah. For the names of the HTML pages as well as the CSS pages, I can give it any random name. So go ahead, copy paste. And let me put over the beautiful background image as well. Yes, it actually looks quite nice. Okay, wait, let me add the file. Okay, I have it downloaded already, but if you haven't downloaded it yet, go ahead and download it. Then I'll put it inside the static folder as well. So maybe I'll wait until 3:45. Try to port over the file structure so it kind of looks like what is mine on the left. Yeah. Let's see, are there any questions? No? Okay, great. Okay, so once you guys have ported over your stuff, it's time to kind of integrate everything into our Flask web app. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to create, I'm going to kind of return, because, okay, think about it, on my homepage for my static web app just now, right, my homepage was this whole good morning John thing, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the same kind of homepage. So I'm going to make use of this thing known as render template. So render template, what it does is basically it renders out the template. Renders out a HTML template. So enclose, one of the first parameters that it takes is the name of your HTML file. So it automatically look for the HTML file inside the templates folder. So I'll go ahead and type index.html. And voila. If we reload it, it should work. But you realize something seems to be wrong. Like, firstly, where's my background? Secondly, it's stuck at the top. So I probably need to fix that. Let me go ahead and investigate my HTML, my main HTML page. So I'll look at my main HTML page and I'll realize that if you see over here, there's these links, okay, and you realize that, wait, hold up. You realize there's something wrong with the way this thing is styled. There's something wrong with the way this link is done. Can anyone guess what's wrong? You can either type in the help chat or just unmute yourself and say, yeah. Anything wrong with this? You know, there's something wrong with this. Did anyone say anything? Oops. Okay, so the reason that's wrong with this thing is basically that this thing is not routed directly to the right folder. Because if you think about it, oops, let me zoom out. Because if you think about it, this is the static folder, right? So ideally we want to look for the CSS file inside the static folder. So what I need to do is I'll go over and type static/style.css. So this time it will look for the style.css inside the static folder. And that's what I'll do for the static file. So I'll go ahead and do the same for the other files as well. Make sure to go and correct the style.css. Make sure it's pointing to the right directory. That's very important. And I'll create my style. Okay. Yeah, so now if I restart it, always make sure to restart, because when you change the code, just reloading this refresh button won't really work. It'll just like literally reload the page. It won't restart and rerun the whole code again. So always make sure to restart everything. So when you restart everything, aha, everything is back to working order. So now I'm gonna see what tasks I have. Okay. Oh no, URL not found. Why So I'll go ahead and go back to my index.html and look again, and I'll see, oh wait, where's my button going to? It's going to task.html. Theoretically that should work, but what if I instead create a root for it? Cause remember in Flask we kind of follow the app root inside this render template. It's really looking out for the app roots. So maybe I create one for my form as well. So I'll go ahead and copy paste, create a new one. I'll call it form, and I'll change my name to form as well. And I'll return form.html, and I'll do the same for task, cause I mean, yeah. So I'll go over and do tasks, and then I'll go back, cause now I have a new root to all of my three functions. So there's the first one, which is the home page, which is the default page when you click on the local host. Oops, not this local host. But when you click on the local host, this one over here at the top right hand corner, you open in a new tab. This will be the default home page, right? But we'll need to kind of address, cause you see this is the default page, so that's why there's no there's a slash theoretically, but don't really need it. It's the same thing. If you were to, so what we want is when the user say enters task over here, the next page will open, and if the user enters form, then the next page will open as well. So we'll make sure to address this with the app.root. So make sure to change the names accordingly, and back inside the HTML, make sure to root this correctly as well. So instead of task.html, it should be /task. Wait, is it task or task? Okay, come, let's check. Okay, it's S, so /task and /form. So always remember to look out for this kind of things, because it could cause you to have errors and stuff. So this back, I'll just put it to the home page and okay, double check everything. It seems to be fine. Let's go back and we'll run it, restart everything again. Make sure a wrapper has a port open and is open to receive HTTP traffic. Okay, I think I did something wrong. Okay, yeah, see? So must be careful. Make sure that your functions have a different name. So mine didn't have a different name because I forgot. So yeah. Okay, click start again. Alright, things are kind of working, so for now. So if they were to click say /form, they can go to here. If they can go to /task for instance, they can go see all of my tasks. So everything is working fine and good, right? Yeah, things are working great. Then before I continue on explaining how we can make this web page more dynamic, I'd like to explain this if name equals me. So sometimes for those of you who say maybe did stuff in Python 2, you might have seen this before, but sometimes, you know, for me also, I also didn't really understand what does it really mean. I know it's calling up the main function, but what does this thing actually mean? So to kind of demonstrate what if name equals main is, I created a very simple script. So what it basically does is, this is my main script, okay? I'll call it, okay wait, so if you're still working on a wrapper, just pause for a moment and just watch my live stream. I'm not going to code anything, just need to watch can already. Okay, so anyways, for the script.py, you'll see that I have a function here, define call, not call, and a name, if name equals main and else. So the first function, what happens is that it will call, I'm basically going to print that if the thing is run directly from means I just run the, say, this script.py using the terminal. If I run script.py, this will be running the thing, just running the file directly. So I created a function called call to just tell me that it's running the file directly. And I created another function not call to say that it's not running, I didn't run the function directly. So basically to tell me okay. So what happens is that, to kind of explain what if name equals main does, is that if you were to run the file directly, the file will kind of, this means that the file is run directly. So it will only work if the file is run directly, like what you see in the terminal now. What do I mean by the file is not run directly? It means that, in other words, it could mean that it is imported. So what is the example of imported? So like just now we imported our Flask module, right? So that's an example of importing something. So in this case, I created a second script called second script.py. Yes, very nice naming. To kind of import the first script. And what I'm gonna do is to run the first script directly. So we will see what happens. See which one of the functions are being called. Okay? Because the first function should run when the file is called directly, and the second function is run when the file is imported. Okay, so just watch what is happening here. So I'm gonna run the file directly, and you'll see that executed when invoked directly, so it's not imported. So this means that the file is run directly lah. Okay, and the second script, I'm gonna run the second script now. I'm saving it. I'm gonna run the second script because I imported it. It's in the same directory level, so I just import it. And I'll run with the Python command again on my terminal. Second script. And you'll say that executed when imported, clearly imported. So you realize that this has been imported and this is not imported. So I mean, okay, so it kind of makes sense. So why do you think then that the wrapper Flask has this if name equals main function? Anyone has any idea? So now you kind of understand what if name equals main means, which means that the kind of file is kind of run directly. Any idea why we have why is it a convention in our Flask app? Okay, so if you are still slightly confused, it's fine because I'll also at some time try and understand this problem. So what it basically means is that if you go back to the Flask folder organization over here, you realize that we have this kind of preset kind of static templates and app.py, right? So what happens is that if I were to import this file, this app.py file, let's say with another module, it will kind of mess up the whole thing because we need to make sure that this thing is running in this directory only. Means it is run directly. We can only run this app. To access these templates as well as this static folder, we need to run the app.py directly. We cannot import it and then try to run this because if not, all the directories will get messed up. So that's the kind of the main reason why we have this if name equals main is to really prevent app.py from being imported. So people won't just randomly try and import this module into somewhere else because, you know, app.py is a pretty common name actually. So that's one of the main reasons why we use if name equals main. So back to here. So now that we have specified the host and the port and everything, we have our working web app, right? And you realize, wait, this is actually the same as my static web page. There's nothing different. So why I have Flask, I waste all my time. So did I just like waste all my time? And it's 3:56 already, so no, the answer is no. Flask actually has more things that we can use lah. So one of the first thing would be, anyone realize anything wrong? Like, wait, my name is not John. That's not my name. And what if, let's say, I want this website to be for people to kind of create their own Momentum web pages. Like, you know, when you sign up for Momentum. Okay, I have a Momentum account somewhere here. Where is it? Yes. When you have signed up for Momentum, you get this very clean, you get a very nice clean web page that says your name, right? Okay, that's not my name, but whatever. You have a specialized name to use. So I really want to change this name. And it's a bit lame to go into my HTML and go and change it manually, right? So what I'm going to do is going to teach you guys how we're going to change this name dynamically. So the first thing that, before you kind of create your app, is you probably want somewhere for your user to enter their name, right? So what I'm going to do now is create a form for them to enter their name inside the page. So don't get confused with this form. This form is for adding tasks to your Momentum. This one is a form to enter your name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a form. And to do that, the way I get about doing that is using this thing called render template. So what is render template? You might be wondering. So basically, render template renders a HTML page directly, right? But I can use render template string to render a raw kind of HTML string. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to return render template string, and I'm going to make use of docstring. So what are docstrings? For those of you who need a quick refresher, there are kind of 3 kinds of strings in Python, I think. Yeah, there are 3 kinds of strings. So for all those, for single quotes and multi quotes and double quotes strings, you can only type on 1 line, but you cannot type on 2 lines. You realize that the syntax, the coloring gone off. So you know that syntax highlighting gone off. So you know that something's wrong. So what you really need is a docstring, so a multi-line code. So what I'm going to do now is create my raw HTML. So always remember, start off with doc type HTML. I forgot this many times, so yes. Okay, then I'll initialize just HTML, and I'll have my closing HTML tags. Then I'll indent a bit, have my body tag. Okay, so some of you might be wondering, where is my head tag? I don't really need a head tag for now because I'm not really going to use any CSS. So I mean, you can use CSS after this if you want to make it look nicer, but for now, to save time, I am not gonna do it. Okay, so I just have my body tag. Then I'll create a form. So just now you guys were taught about how to create a form. So a form and slash form. Then what I'll create is probably I want an input box, right, for them to enter their name. So input type equals text, and I'll probably want a placeholder to kind of tell them that, you know, you are supposed to enter your name here, not like your password or whatever. So enter your name. So enter your name. I'll create a placeholder, and name is equal to name slash input. Alright, then I'll probably want a submit button as well. If not, I mean, how are you going to submit? So input type is equal to submit. So okay, I know at this time it's 4 PM, but we'll kind of overrun a bit. So if you need to go, you can go. We'll upload the YouTube video online as well. But if you can stay, just do try to stay. Okay. So slash input. Okay, yeah. Then, but realize that doing this alone doesn't really work, because you think about it. I have a form, right? I have a form, right? But when the form gets sent to the user, what kind of request is he making? Maybe I'll give you guys a hint. So if you look back to the HTTP methods that Amber taught you guys just now, there's 2 kind of methods that we're really focusing on. One is the get method, and the second one is the post method. So the post method is to kind of send data to a server, to send items like text input or images or whatever. And get is really to when they are first logging into a web page. When I go to a default building blocks web page, I'm making a get request. When I'm sending stuff to a server, it's a post request. So over here is probably a post, right? So I probably want to accept a method equals post. Then I want to make sure to kind of open up my app root to get and post requests. So what I'll do is I'll have requests is equal, methods is equal to get as well as post, to open up to both get and post requests. Then let's say now your user is sending over the data. Okay, let's say when he first enters the website, he's making a get request. Then when he enters his name, he enters his blah 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 name, then he's making a post request, right? So anyone confused like how do I differentiate whether it's a get or post request, right? Is there any way to differentiate? So as it turns out, we can make use of a if-else statement in Flask. So if-else, you know, there's usually a if something condition, then we'll probably if something, then else some other condition, right? So I probably want to do that. So if let's say the request dot method is equal to get, so this means that if the first request method, when the user first enters the website, there's a get request, right? So if my user first enters a get request, I probably want to prompt him with this Google form that says, a simple form that asks him for his name, right? So that's my get request. And then if he's done with the form, he's clicking on the submit button, that will probably be a post request because it's sending data over. So else, this will be a post request. And then I'll return render template. And actually wait, I don't need to do it anymore because I already have it here. So I probably want to return the home page. Right? And then it seems, okay, very good. So now I've been able to kind of get my data for my user, right? So the next question is, how am I going to change the name? Now I have my data from the user. How am I going to change the name of John? So that's where Jinja comes in. So to give you guys a quick recap on what Jinja is, because it's been some time or so. Jinja is basically kind of like the intermediate kind of like templating engine that kind of plays around and deals with your stuff like your databases, your web templates, and all of that, those stuff to kind of create dynamic web pages, as we said earlier, right? So what Jinja really saves you is kind of having to code all the stuff manually. Like Flask also, there are a lot of other stuff that's hiding underneath the code that you otherwise need to code manually lah. So Jinja really saves you kind of a lot of the time lah. So there's some stuff that Jinja really protects again. One of them is cross-site scripting. So basically cross-site scripting, I'm not going to go into too much detail, you can go search it up lah. But basically is that people can kind of enter JavaScript code into your input form boxes. Yeah, can enter like JavaScript code inside these form boxes and they will be able to kind of change your web page. So that's kind of something that Jinja sort of protects against. So good to know that lah. Okay, anyways, so now we're going to find out how we're going to change the name of John, right? So what I'm going to do is that, as it turns out, render template integrates very well with this Jinja thing because it actually takes on a second parameter. It doesn't just take on render template, it can actually take on other parameters as well. So it could be whatever, it could be the name of like this thing John over here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to change this variable. So watch carefully. You might want to stop coding for a while, just take a look at this. So good morning John, right? I don't want to call it John anymore. So I know it's going to be a name. So I'm just going to create a variable called name. So in Jinja, there's a few kind of, it's kind of like a programming language, but it's missing some stuff. So there are variables as well as like for loops in Jinja. If you look over here, there's a variable as well as a for loop. There's a few other stuff lah. You can click on this link over here for a primer on Jinja templating after the course. But yeah, so you can kind of have variables, dynamic variables, and I'm calling my variable username. So I'll go back to my main.py and I'll make sure to equate username to something, because that's the name of my web page, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna next get my data from the form that I created. So what I'm going to do is create a variable called uname. Actually no, I shouldn't name it so confusingly, so I'll call it name. Name is equal to request.form.get name. So how do you know what to call here? So if you go back to your index.html, you realize that sorry, not index, in your main.py, right, you realize that I created this identifier for this form known as name. So that's the unique identifier that I'll be using to kind of locate it. So request the form.get name is directly pointing to this one over here. So always make sure to check for this kind of identifiers. Yeah. Okay, so anyways, I'm getting the name. Then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pass this Python variable into this parameter over here. So uname is equal to name. And I don't really need the spacing, so yeah, that should be it. And if I were to restart the page, what you'll see is I have this simple box. Oh wait, I don't know what I'm supposed to enter inside here. So I should probably add a simple h1 tag to kind of tell the user, a heading tag, tell the user, enter your name to create your own momentum web page. So create a simple momentum web page, click restart, and bang. Okay, now I'm going to enter my name. My name is Kenneth, so enter. Great. So now I have good morning Kenneth. So this is kind of what we mean by dynamic web pages. So these are things that are kind of pre-coded. So these are not things that are pre-coded. I didn't know that my name would be Kenneth. It could be someone else's name. Any name would work. So this is what we mean by dynamic web pages. But there are some things that you might want to think about when you have a name variable like that. Let's say if I were to enter an empty input inside this thing. Enter empty input. Like say just now, I just enter. Then you realize that it's not very good. If I'm a momentum web page, there's just a blank spacing. You know, this is probably something that we'll want to take a look at lah. Like, you know, a blank spacing is not very good, especially if let's say we need the spacing to assign him a task, right? And then he doesn't give me a name. How am I supposed to know which task he has, right? So this is probably something you will want to take note of lah. So what you can probably do is, I'm not going to call out the full thing because I'm running short of time, but probably if not name, so if there's nothing inside the form, if not name, I probably want to do something here, so do something here. Probably want to say something like, please enter your name or something like, you know, prevent him from going to my Momentum webpage without a name. So as like budding web developers, you probably need to consider this kind of things when you're building your web application because users won't always enter like very nice clean input lah. They might enter no input, they might purposely try to spoil your system or like, I don't know, include random stuff inside lah. So you might want to think about this kind of things lah. They're actually pretty important lah. Yeah, especially if you're deploying for like a proper full-fledged web app. Yeah. Okay, it's been quite a lot of things said so far. So, let me see. Okay, what's the time now? 4:09 p.m. Okay, at this point in time, are there any questions so far? Now that you guys have kind of learned this this thing, I would like to bring up there are some cool other kind of Jinja stuff that you can kind of use. One of them is template inheritance. So basically the basic idea of template inheritance is that, click on this link later, but the basic idea is that you have a base template as well as a child template. So what we mean by that is, okay, you see I have this web app now, right, that kind of works, sort of. And then I have my name, Kenneth, enter. Then you realize that, let's say you see to just now Zhezhao and Anika, right, when they created the web pages, right, they have to go and add the external CSS inside, right? But what if let's say we have quite a lot of like, you know, to go and create all of this, you need to go and copy paste here and there. So it's maybe you guys might not notice it now lah, but when your web app has become pretty big and they have a lot of HTML pages, right, it will become quite a hassle to go and create all of these things manually, especially if you have a set standard of things. Like usually, you think most people's web pages are not so simple. They're not just good morning John. They have usually a pretty complex list of stuff. So let's just take Building Blocks website for example. So there's probably a nav bar at the top, and the nav bar is probably going to be a standard set of code. And I'm not going to go and copy over and over again, especially if you think about it. Let's say I have this nav bar, right, and let's say I want to change workshops, or I add a new link, right. I'm not going to go to every single page and then go and change the thing one by one. It is really very time consuming, right? So what this Jinja inheritance does is basically allows you to create a base template with all of your footer, your header, your navigation bars, your pictures, whatever, your standard stuff that every web page will have. And then it will have it will allow you to have child templates, which basically take characteristics from your base template, so that everything will look very nice, very simple, like simply done lah. So that's a kind of a way to like save time per se lah. Yeah. And cool Flask modules. Yeah, okay, so there are some other things in Flask that you guys might want to use also lah. So one of them is this thing known as Flask session lah. There's a bunch of other things also lah, but I'm just gonna introduce Flask session because I think it's quite relevant to today's topic lah. So we have a to-do list, right? So I'm gonna enter my name, and it's kind of good morning kind of, okay? So let's say now I want to see my tasks, correct? There's some preset tasks that Anika has written earlier, but how do I know whether these tasks are mine? Like, these are not my tasks. I did not go shopping. I mean, I didn't plan to go shopping today. I didn't plan to do homework today. That's actually true. And yes, so I didn't. Okay, I planned to attend Building Blocks, but I didn't plan to do the first two things. So realize something wrong here. These tasks are not specific to me, right? It's not specific to my user, right? So I probably want some way of identifying that it's me. probably want some way to tell me that, hey, it's Kenneth, it's my task only. And that's the first part, okay? The second part is, let's say I open this in a new tab. Okay, just watch me for a moment, cause I'm explaining quite a bit of things. So let's say I have this thing, right? So let's say I'm like some malicious hacker, okay? I came to this website and I said, you know what? I bet this is a momentum web page. That means there's probably some task. There's probably a task URL somewhere. So I'm gonna go ahead and write task in my URL bar. Oh man, imagine if this was like a full-fledged website and I managed to somehow hack into someone's task and like see all of their tasks. So it's probably a security risk as well as the fact that it's not personalized to me, right? So those are the two things that we have to solve on hand. The first thing is that, one, my tasks are not personalized to me only. The second thing is that I can probably just hack, kind of. Imagine if there was some secret information here and then I just type /form and then, oh no, I somehow managed to go into all of the web pages somehow, just by typing my URL bar. I didn't do anything special. So probably want to address that by having like a unique identifier to kind of tell whether, it's your name or something. So the way you go about doing this in Flask is you use this thing called Flask session. So what Flask session is basically something like a global variable. So anyone has any idea what a global variable in Flask is? I mean in Python is? Anyone would like to say it? Okay, anyways, to speed up. So basically, right, global variable is basically like a default kind of, a variable that exists in the full global context. So what do I mean? Let's say if I have a variable defined here, right, like name, right? Name is a local variable because it only exists inside this function. It will only exist inside this main function. But once I exit, right, if I were to print name, right, which I will do right now, and I run it, you'll quickly realize that, oh wait, sorry. Wait, let me delete this first. Okay, yeah, I need to pass this thing. Wait. You realize it says name is not defined. Oh no, why can't I zoom in? Yes. Okay, you quickly realize that say name is not defined. So this means that the variable doesn't exist in the... Oh no, how come I can't? Okay, yes. So this means that the name variable only exists in a local context. But what I really want is something that exists in a global context. So I can pass my name from function to function. So let's say if I want my name to exist inside this main root, right? I want to pass it to say form or say task, right? I probably want it to exist in this thing. So I could kind of check. Let's say if I have task over here, right? I probably want to check this person's name, whether his name is Kenneth or whatever, right? So how am I going to do that? So I will make use of this thing called Flask session. So the way I go about doing this is where is it? Oops. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a session variable in Flask. And because I imported the module already at the top, because I import everything, yes, that's why you save time with doing that, I'll create a session known as name, a session variable known as name, and I'll assign it to name, which is this variable. So this variable gets assigned to here. So what this does is it creates a global variable in a sense, but this global variable is unique to each user. So meaning that, let's say this user comes in, he types his name, Kenneth, he clicks enter, the name will be stored in that context. But once he closes this tab, I close this tab already, his name will not be stored anymore. So it's like for each request that comes in, they just remember for that session. So for that session that user is logged in, they remember the name. Understand? Yeah, so that's what the session variable does lah. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set this session variable because I want to remember his name, right? I'll know that this is Kenneth and not John or something. So now what I'm going to do next is probably when he clicks on the form tab, I'm probably going to retrieve that variable. So I'm going to assign name to be equal to the session variable name, and I'm probably going to add in a second parameter into my render template over here. So that will be uname is equal to name. And once again, I'll create a Jinja variable inside the form. So I'll go back to here. Inside this my form here, I probably want to create something at the top that says like h1. Probably I'll create something that says h1 add your name. your name, then wait, what was it called? Uname, right? So uname. Then what I'm probably gonna do is if I just leave it like that, it's not gonna be centralized, so I'll make use of using our CSS knowledge just now. I'm gonna make use of class text center. Yes. Oops. Okay, I'll be almost done. The session will be ending soon, yes. Because I know it's been very long and kind of fast. Okay. Okay, yeah, so add your name. So this will probably trigger and say that, okay, so this is Kenneth and not John. And yes, it's very good side effect. So what happens is that if I reload the page and I type my name, Kenneth, I click submit. Oh wait, there's something. Oh, okay, I know why. Okay, so for this session variable, I need to create a unique key for it lah. So the way I do this is I basically just create app config. So I'll use app config because app is referring to this name at the top over here. So app.config over here. Probably create a secret key, secret key, which is equal to a random thing that I just created. Okay, no one saw that, so I just created a secret key. Yes. Okay, yeah, so once I'm done creating a secret key, it should work. Okay, so what happens is that if I were to click add class, right, you realize that my name is kind of specific to like my Flask app lah. So basically what happens is that I'll have a specific like name to me lah, okay? And what happens is that if let's say I were to go and try and open up the same thing and I click add task, right, you realize it's a /form, right? So let me try and do the same hacker trick that I did just now. If I were to do like the same trick, okay, not here. Let me open a new incognito window so I don't have my thing get cached. Yeah, you realize there's an internal server error. And this is exactly what we want because we don't want a random person to just come in to kind of fill out the form. Because if let's say the random user enters his name inside the form, what happens is that it will kind of they will say over here that there's a key error missing here. Do you realize there's a key error? Wait, let me try and zoom in. You realize they say there's a key error over here, which means that the user's name is missing over here. So this is probably something that probably not good if you're on an actual web application. On a web application, you probably want to tell them please log in or something, right? So you probably need to create some application to kind of solve that. But for today's purposes, we kind of prevented them from just entering their name and entering the root inside the thing lah. So no one can just randomly enter and then try to enter in. Yeah. So that's kind of the end for the Flask session. So to kind of round up what we've kind of learned today for Flask, right, because it's been quite a long amount of things. We start off by learning the boilerplate code that we always need for when we start our Flask app. So probably we need to import all the modules, we need to initialize the Flask app, and we also need to learn how to make use of the decorators to kind of receive from the different web addresses, as well as have a function to kind of deal with them. We can in our function, we can either make use of a render template string using raw HTML, or the other way is we render a template, a HTML template, and the templates must be placed inside a template folder. There's a template folder, static folder. Static folder is for placing all of our CSS as well as images, static stuff. Our templates for all our HTML pages. And we also learned a bit about Jinja. So Jinja basically is to kind of allow us to have the dynamic web pages. So we can have like unique variables as well as for loops, which I didn't cover, but yeah, you guys can go search out on it. And we also learn a bit about session variables and how we can kind of receive individual sessions. Yeah. If you guys were like lost at any point in time, you can go back and watch the video later on the YouTube, or you can go and take a look at all of our links. These are the complete like codes of all the stuff that we've done. So the first one is the demo that Zhao did just now for the margins and stuff. Second one is the static pages. The last one is for the Flask web pages. You guys can go and take a look at the complete list of code lah. Alright then, thank you for attending Intro to Web Development Part 1 workshop.